about CE5 and extraterrestrial contact, download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.
So, Stan, 50 years later, what do you think happened here at this spot?
Oh, I think what happened was exactly how Dad described it as it happened. And being here and looking around and seeing the lay of the land, every explanation, and I heard him explain it over and over and over. Every explanation when he talked about distances and trees and rocks and water and beaver dam, and it's all clear. It's all here. It's exactly how he described it. When you look at the drawing he made for the RCMP to come out here on their own, the little sort of map, it follows the contours perfectly and directions perfectly. So he was here. I know that.
This was the first time I've ever consciously seen those things. I mean, when I opened up my eyes before I threw that pillow, this thing was standing in front of my pillow. Do you know what that's like? Well, we put locks on the doors to keep outsiders from coming in.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Beavers from The Theory, and you are listening to Alien Strand Podcast, the dopest UFO alien podcast out there. And if you want to find out about me, just go on YouTube and search UFOs over U of O or The Theory with Mike Beavers. Stay tuned, guys.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. Yep. It's going to be an amazing one today. Yeah. But before we get going, I want to welcome you to Alien Strand Podcast. We've been going on here for quite some time now. We're starting to get more followers. Thank you for that. And if you're new to ufology, well, welcome to ufology and welcome to Alien Strand Podcast, where we give you nothing but disclosure of extraterrestrials, UFOs, Bigfoot, supernatural, and anything in the middle, all right? So, speaking of the middle, what? Yeah. So, go catch our movies. They're on Amazon Prime Video, The Middle Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, all right? Go check those out. We really appreciate that. That is amazing disclosure on our documentaries. I couldn't express it enough of how much it means to me for you guys to watch these films. Very educational, and it's good for you guys that have experienced anything like this, but just haven't figured out exactly what it was. A lot of these witness accounts that are in these films give you exactly what exactly happened to them, and they just can't express it but how you see their faces on camera, because it's non-scripted, everything's on the fly. I asked some questions. We got into deep conversations about things that happened to them. Now, you can follow us on where it says all my links after this podcast. You'll see it on the description. It'll say all my links. Click on that. We have sponsors. We have new sponsors. We have America's Coffee on there, and we also have Snack Bench 85. Go check out her store. It's on there, and you'll see it on the all my links. Go click on those. Amazing stuff at the stores. Get yourself some nice coffee, get yourself some nice merchandise. And, these are our sponsors for our show, and they help us, get all this stuff to you guys, and it helps this podcast grow as much as it's been doing. We do have a TikTok. We haven't gone live yet there, but that might change here pretty soon. Yeah, I think it will. All right. Well, go to all my links. The TikTok is there as well. You can see everything, our YouTube pages, Facebook pages, all our social media. It's there where it says all my links. All right. Anyway, it's been an amazing week, a real busy one. Fast forward, I'm still editing the middle part 4. And, I just been having some amazing conversations with amazing people every day, which talk to me about a lot of disclosure and things that happen in their lives. Right. And, speaking of, I'm going to be on a podcast in the United Kingdom, and this guy hit me up, and he wants me to be the first one on their podcast. So I will be talking about the films, ufology, disclosure, and everything in between, right? And hope you catch up to that. I'll let you guys know when I'll be on that podcast. It'll be, we're already planning everything. It's called Brothers Son Plugged Podcast. That's what it's called. All right. So these two guys are brothers, and they have a podcast, and they're diving into the rabbit hole. Hello. What is a rabbit hole? It's what we do here every day. We talk about a lot of disclosure, a lot of behind the scenes, and things that you don't get to understand and know about, but we explain it a lot here on Alien Strand. So, I don't know if you guys have been catching my live on my Patreon. Go check out the Patreon there. You join for free. It's a free membership, or you can be a nice person and pay the $5 a month, and you get some special stuff on there as well. All right. So anyway, if you go join our Patreon, I've had a lot of live stuff going on there, a lot of video presentations, photos and videos of extraterrestrials that we've been catching a lot lately in Mexico, and some actually here, and some in my hometown as well, here in Corpus Christi. So, there's a lot of people involved in Alien Strand. So it's ASDP, Alien Strand Disclosure Project, right? I can't say it enough because there's no I in team. We all work together as one, all right? As it should be, because only the people, us as people, can make a difference on disclosure. Sometimes when they do these government, these whistleblowers and all these things that they've been doing lately, these Congress hearings and with the DOD, they've been trying to kind of unravel this onion, right? Because I'm not going to say it stinks, but, there's layer after layer after layer that they're trying to take off to get to the bottom of the root, right? Of what exactly is disclosure as far as ufology, UFOs, extraterrestrials. What is disclosure? Disclosure is when you're giving the information of what you've witnessed, what you've seen, what you've took photos of, physical evidence as well, parts of the craft, maybe some physical evidence of the extraterrestrial, things like that. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. As I talked about in my video podcast here, this last one I just did on Patreon and YouTube, right? So if you haven't checked it out, don't miss it. That's a great one. I just threw it out on TikTok, or a small one as well. But I started talking about how I've been diving so deep into this rabbit hole of disclosure, right? And we've been trying to, working with other team members, Danielle, everybody out there, Ani Ball, Chris Hamill, everybody out there is putting their 2 cents in. John Dickinson, he's on these web pages all over the place, posting disclosure, right? And I interviewed John, and I know you heard that story of when these extraterrestrials came and they took him, and he was gone for what he felt was 3 weeks, and when he got back, his motorcycle was still warm. So it was just maybe seconds or minutes that he was gone. Right? How does that happen? How does that happen to people? Right? And that is the question of the aha moment of what is exactly happening in that period of jump, right? In other words, like, we've all seen the films when they, jump timelines, things like that. But what if these extraterrestrials can actually pull you out of your timeline, take you to where in their dimension, physical, in a physical sense, right? Pull you out of your element, take you what seems to be maybe months, weeks, could be years, and when you get back, it only seems seconds, right? They put you back into your timeline. Because there is no time. There is no time for these extraterrestrials. You never see them wearing watches, right? Or anything that looks or resembles a watch. No, there is no time. Time does not matter. It doesn't mean anything to these things, these grays out there, these clones, these reptile-looking ones as well. There is no time. They have the technology to pull you out of your element, take you, do what they're going to do, and bring you back, and put you right back into that same slot you were at within a second, two, maybe minutes. Like when I talked to Don Rogers. And he said when they pulled him out and they put him back, he was off like 20 minutes or so. And he couldn't get his mind together for about 2 weeks. He felt displaced somewhat, right? Like, you ever had this, almost like, let's just say you don't sleep for 24 hours or longer, and you don't get enough sleep, and you feel like a zombie when you're walking around, right? Because your mind has not had that sleep, that rest that it needs to put you back to where you need to be, right? To have normal conversations, normal thought processes, things like that. This is exactly how he explained when he was pulled out of his element, put back, that when they did this to him, this was on his show, mind you, that he was displaced for about 2 weeks. He says, I was angry. I couldn't get my crap together, right? I was barking at everybody as far as like angry, right? So what if these things can do this? And how do you explain that to people without sounding crazy, right? How? You don't. It's so many people just hold those thoughts. Is it a dream? Did something happen to me? What is it that happened to me? What happened? That's why I named this podcast that, because as a experiencer, you start realizing that the missing time element sometimes resonates within you to where you realize there's missing time. Some people do realize it. Some people don't. You could be just there and just go by your day to day. Know something happened, but you just don't understand exactly what it was. So you're like, oh, well, and you keep going, right? It's the way it is. A lot of people are that way, right? And as I was explaining how about a week and a half ago when I spotted a UFO above my house, broad daylight, working on my vehicle, I happened to see a plane cross over my head, very low altitude, maybe 300 feet or so. But there's a landing strip about, 5 miles from here. So they use this area to fly over. These are training pilots, right? So as this plane went by, a propellered airplane, call them props, right, flew by, and I looked at it, and all of a sudden I see this red glow behind it as it's rising in the air. I thought, well, maybe it was a puff of smoke that maybe the engine threw or something. So I kept looking at it, and then it starts glowing. And then when I keep looking at it, by this time it's maybe 300-400 feet above my head, broad daylight, blue skies, beautiful weather, and I see two more objects come out of it, right? And it makes like a elongated triangle, right? and it takes on that geometric shape as the center light is blinking. So I pulled up my phone, start recording, right? Hit my video, and I'm there recording it. So I waited about a minute after that. My arm was getting tired because I was, swinging a wrench for a while. I'm not a young puppy anymore, but so at that point, I'm like, okay, let me check the video, make sure it took. So when I looked at the video, I never hit record. As smart, as stupid as I am sometimes, this did happen to me. So as I'm kicking myself in the butt on that, I hit record again, and then I started zooming in as far as I could. Of course, I got an iPhone 11. Now, everybody's up to the 16. We're going to have the 17 here. I'm still a few years behind, mind you. Okay, I'm out there, greasy hands on my hands because I'm working on the truck, changing brakes. Right, this is what I do every once in a while. I love doing that anyway, by the way. And so when I start recording again, I record, get some nice footage, zoomed it in, try to get as close as I could. By then, it was already 600 to 1,000 feet, maybe higher above the skyline. And I said, I see you. And it flashed at me at that moment. Like it indicated, I know you are. I know you're seeing me. Like a communication at some sort at that point. So as I started digging and looking at it, and then I said it again. I can see you. As it kept on going straight up into the over the sky, no clouds in the sky, so it's not going above the clouds. I couldn't tell where the clouds were at the time. I just knew it was starting to disappear way into the skyline. Then it flashes one more time, and then it disappears. So at that point, I'm in awe because I know I just witnessed a UFO. But mind you, this is not my first time. This is probably like the 15th one I've seen in my lifetime, okay? So these extraterrestrial visitations or coincidences that I'm been approached even more now since I've been shooting documentaries since 2022, okay? Early 2022, I started shooting documentaries on the same subject. Going to Oregon, showing you the Cascadia guides, the UFOs that were flying over that area. Very majestic there. It's very majestic. When you stand on that mountain, on Paulina Peak, 8,600 feet above sea level, and when you're standing on the side of that mountain next to these huge geoglyphs on the ground that look like two extraterrestrials that are back to back, you get this majestic sort of feeling there, or something special happened there, right? Of course, you have to see the film in order to know how what takes place during that whole thing. The middle, Cascadia guides, right? So, okay, I'm documenting all these things, talking to many people that are witnessing spiritual, supernatural beings, things that are happening to them behind closed doors that they cannot tell people without sounding crazy and almost afraid to be on camera at the time. But then they said, you know what? Let's do this. I need to get this off my chest. In which the middle part 2, the middle part 3, you're starting to see everything unfold for these folks, as it is for myself. Because on part 2, I witnessed a UFO, my son and I, as we were filming. It communicated with us. This was last year in San Antonio on the outskirts, as we were filming Ryan Keaton and the visitations that he's been having on these orbs, UFOs. Most people thought that he was full of crap. But lately, He just bought himself a brand new camera, a Nikon P900 professional camera, and he's been getting some amazing video and photos of these extraterrestrials and UFOs. Now we know there weren't helicopters, drones. These are actual UFO craft that we have analyzed at Alien Strand Disclosure Project. And we showed it on this last video presentation on YouTube. And you have to see everything as it unfolds. So this happened to me as well, right? While I'm watching this take place last year, we filmed the whole thing. As we were interviewing people in Arkansas, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Colorado, Sedona, Arizona, we were witnessing many UFO craft after that in the sky. Coincidence? Or contact? That is the strangeness of what unfolded and what has been unfolding for myself. So as these things start happening and my story is coming along, 3 days ago, I'm grabbing a cup of coffee in the kitchen, morning, 9:30. Kelly asked me, "Hey, what's that? Are you bleeding behind your leg?" And I'm like, "What?" Mind you, I just woken up from sleep. And I look behind my leg, my ankle, my right ankle, and I couldn't see it at first. She goes, "No, look, turn it this way." So finally I saw it, and it was probably about an inch, a 1x1, possibly, triangular cutout in the rear part of my ankle, next to my foot, next to my heel. Probably about a 0.1 or 0.2 millimeter depth, right? So it was a piece that looked like it was cut off into a triangle, like a biopsy sort of, which I had never, ever experienced in my life, mind you. And I am the one that usually talks to people. They show me their marks. They send me their video. They send me their photos of their indentions and bruising of triangular shape, even black bruises that look like a 3-point triangulation on their arms, on their chest, on their back, on their ankles, even red ones, even sort of burned in cutouts that I talk to people about daily. Now, this has unfolded on me now. So at this point, I am totally dumbfounded, right? I'm very skeptical. It takes me a while to get to the bottom of the doubt factor of what these things are to people before I get into the I doubt this happened or this is real or this is not real, right? I'm this person. I ask questions. I question everything, even myself, right? At this point. How did this happen? Did I bump into anything? Did something scratch me? Triangular. I'm thinking, no, because I didn't feel it. All I felt was a little bit of itching sensation that morning when it was discovered. And I show the videos of these on YouTube and our Patreon site. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around exactly what happened to me now. As I was talking about earlier, did this happen to me as it did Don Rogers or as it did John Dickinson. Maybe. Maybe. Let's take a real quick break. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Alien Strand Podcast.
All right, welcome back. As I was talking about, that maybe I was taken out of my element while I was asleep in my subconscious level. Or maybe I was taken in a physical sense, but I didn't move from my bed. How is this possible? How is this possible for someone to, or something, to pull a piece of your skin at that moment without you realizing it? And what if this phenomenon is real and that it occurs to people? I don't know if you've seen this. It was an older video of this gentleman and his wife. He said she kept on, he goes, sometimes I'd wake up, she'd be in bed. Sometimes I'd wake up, she's not in bed. I'd look for her, I don't find her anywhere. I go back to bed. There she is again in the morning. So he took a video of this. I need to go back and find this. I've seen it many times before. And while they're asleep, her body just, under the covers, disappears. It just kind of goes away and the covers go down like an air pocket. And she's gone for about a minute, maybe two. And then you see her body come back up within the blankets. Like her physical body disappeared and then it reappeared. She had been having dreams of extraterrestrials and aliens but thought that they were just dreams, right? So what if this is happening to all of us that experience this phenomenon that we cannot explain? Sometimes we can pick this up on a camera, but you can't see the whole thing unfold. And that is the hardest part of explaining this sort of disclosure for an abductee, a contactee, an experiencer. This is what I call experiencers. People that have made contact sometimes can be, in a physical sense, wide awake, full conscious level, and make contact with craft. But then in a subconscious level, you don't know what's going on. They come to you through dreams, memories. And then we're trying to ponder, was this a dream or was this real? And do we connect with these spiritual or extraterrestrial beings or whatever they are within ourselves, right? Because this is the only way we're going to get this and get ourselves to understand first. In other words, if this has happened to you, once you accept it, and once you realize that this has happened to you, possibly, and once you wrap your mind around it and say, okay, I'm going to embrace this and go forward with disclosure, I am going to figure out exactly what happened to me or what is happening to me. or my family. This could get darker as well as you go. You start diving deeper into the rabbit hole because this is exactly what it is. You have to have a totally open mind. Totally open mind in order to dive into this realm. And once you go in, it's hard to get out. That's the problem. Because you want to know what happened to you or what has unfolded in front of you without your knowledge. And this is what I've been trying to wrap my own thoughts, my own self, around exactly what happened to me. Because now I am not just the interviewer, I am the experiencer as well. Things have changed for me from this point forward. Now I can say that, honestly, I can dive into a conversation with somebody who has been abducted, or an experiencer, or a contactee with a different mindset now. Not that I didn't believe anyone. I'm straight open-minded, and I ask many questions, and I know who's feeding me bullcrap, and I know who's not. I can tell by their stories and how they explain it to me, and the seriousness of their conversations, and how nothing changes in their stories. And this is why I named this What Happened. Because at this point, I don't know what happened. We can dive into many books and read about disclosure and read about these old authors that are out there and that have passed on already. They dove into this rabbit hole as well. Bud Hopkins, all these people that were out there, they dove into this world knowing that there's something else out there other than us, right? And they put it on black and white, which is on books, for us to understand the stories that were happening to these people. And speaking of stories, I'm going to read you a story of a recent abductee as he explained what happened to him from an early age. It says, as a small boy of 3 and 4 living in Tasmania in the 1960s, I remember telling my mother about strange small beings coming into my bedroom at night. She told me, it's just your imagination. Go to sleep. But I'd lay there wide awake, watching them. When they seemed right, they would approach my bedside. This happened time and time again. I always knew when they were coming back to visit me that day or two before they returned. At the same time, I was having reoccurring nightmares, maybe once a week for about a year. But time is hard to judge at that age. They would start off with me laying down on a cold table, dimly lit room. 3 large heads were above my face. They would move subtly and come close towards my face. as if they were going to hit me. One after another, these large bronze wet-looking heads would bend over me. And I didn't see any faces or eyes, just the large heads. The worst part of this was the smell. But it was much more than just a smell. It was a sensation that could taste a revolting smell. And a taste that stayed within me for 30 years. Time of that, I thought it was just a nightmare. I blocked this out of my memory around the age of 30. For about 20 years, of the fear of the smell and the taste and the sensation would be returning. I put this experience as far away and I blocked it from my back of my mind as far as I could. Some people would call this a physical experience or not a dream at all. A few years later, while I was in school, grade 1, I would drop pictures of flying saucers with strange beings and them looking down. Other kids drew pictures of dogs, cars, houses, or a sunny day. The other kids would ask me, "What's that thing?" And they would laugh at me. I didn't know why. They didn't understand. I remember my teacher telling my mother that I had a vivid imagination. I don't know what happened to me back then in the 1960s. I do know I have never had a dream since that of any kind that has smell or taste to it. I have thought that since the same smells and tastes and the sensation might have been some type of anesthesia. I have always had a fascination with UFOs, aliens. I have known from an early age about electromagnetism being used as a part of drive system for the craft. I have seen orb type of UFOs going across the sky during sudden night, and they do right angle turns, but never have a sound. And that's what has intrigued me most of my life. Now that was a story by Steve on one of our alien abduction sites. And he posted that. He wanted people to know exactly what had happened to him as a child. And he could never forget the smell and the taste. Like if they took him, all he could see is the heads going over him. Which is strange indeed, because if you look at a lot of these films or a lot of people's abduction cases, they all explain the same thing. They can't see it very well. All they know that there's shapes of their heads looking right over them. And that is the hardest thing to explain, except through these kind of testimonies, through these kind of paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial groups of abduction. Thousands and thousands of people are dealing with this every day, even today. Did I just experience something like this? Maybe. I just haven't seen it yet. As far as a dream a memory. Nothing has triggered that area yet. Not yet. But maybe one day it will. And all I have to do is just wait till then, right? And I'm hoping that it's not something that will deter me from what I am doing. And most people tell me, because after I explained that story the other day, that what I had experienced is something from them telling me, we know you're watching us. We know you're giving disclosure. We know what you're doing. And it's okay. I guess that's their way of saying hello. I'd rather have a handshake, really in reality, instead of a piece taking from my skin. But they're not like us. They don't have the same thought process. Everything is a bland, straight, narrow. It has nothing in between. They're set to do what they're going to do it, and done. There's no feelings. There's nothing like that. Conversations straightforward, straight to the point and back. There's no process in between. This is the gray. This is the extraterrestrial. This is their thought process. This is why when people experience extraterrestrials, abductions on cold tables, when they're pulling skin from them, pulling needles in their bodies, there is no expressions. They're just doing what they're going to do. There is no feelings. And this is the way they're built. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did. Yeah. I love giving you this information, man. I hope you guys enjoyed my testimony as well on what happened to myself. Man, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself in my mind. Really, reality. All right, guys, don't forget to catch us on 26, 28 platforms of audio podcasts: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, Alexa, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. We're all over the place at Alien Strand Podcast. Sorry, I have another one. Anyway, so don't forget, catch our TikTok. Go to all my links where it says there, all my links. Click on our sponsors. Go check out their pages. Maybe it's something you'd like. Hey, Christmas is around the corner. Gifts. The gifts of giving, man. Come on, get it. Go to our sponsor pages there. Go check them out. Buy some cool stuff for the families. For Christmas, things are coming up. And, it helps go a long way for everybody. Yeah, it's a win-win. Right on. All right, guys, until then, we'll catch you on the next podcast. Don't forget, catch us on Patreon. Go sign up for free. Man, sign up for free. It's free. Or you can pay the $5, man, and then that one you'll have some extra goodies on that one, all right? Don't forget, Patreon. Go look for Alien Strand Podcast, all right? Till then, you guys have yourselves a good day. Have yourselves a good evening. And have yourselves a good night.
Alien Strand Podcast. about CE5, an extraterrestrial contact, download my new book. Now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.